Hello, listeners. I have an amazing guest full of so much information for us today. I am so excited all about our skin and looking and feeling beautiful. I had such a great conversation. Who's on the show, Susie? Dr. Mary Alice Mina, and she is a Harvard-trained dermatologist, international speaker, author, and host of The Skin Reel, a podcast ranked in the top 2.5% globally. She is a co-owner of a dermatology surgery in Atlanta, Georgia. She's a leading expert in procedural dermatology, skin health, and skin care. She has nearly 2 decades of clinical experience. She's celebrated for her artistic eye, surgical precision, and ability to help patients feel radiant at every stage of their life, which we get into today. That's radiance at every stage of our life. You will get a lot out of this, my midlife mamas. She is a sought-after speaker. She delivers impactful keynotes. She has been featured in major media outlets, including People Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, Glamour, Huffington Post, The Love Your Life show. She's passionate about empowering others, and you are going to feel that today. We get into so many awesome things, and she gives us practical advice and things that we can get at our drugstore to help us really with our skin goals and feeling good, and that we're not this is the one you want to listen to if you ever feel overwhelmed or like, what do I do, or confused. She just makes it all simple for us, and I love it. Listen to the very end because she has one takeaway that she wants us all to hear. So join me, and you'll find all links in the show notes underneath, and join me in welcoming Dr. Mina to the Love Your Life show. Hello and welcome, Dr. Mina, to the Love Your Life show. We are so happy to have you here today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. So thanks for having me. And I think it's cool we're talking on 2 different days, right? Because it's Thursday for me and Friday for you.
Friday. I'll bring you some Friday energy. It's super fun.
Thank you.
Can you tell listeners, if they've not heard of you yet, a little bit about you and how you chose to start sharing your expertise on skin and dermatology online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a dermatologist. I trained in the US and I had been practicing maybe 7 or 8 years. And then a little thing happened in 2020 called the pandemic that really just turned life upside down, I think, for everyone, right?
Mhm.
And I loved what I did. I loved taking care of patients. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting at home
Mm.
with my whole family and lockdown and all that. And I started listening to a lot of podcasts at that
Mhm.
time. And I also started thinking, what happens when I can't physically go in and see my patients? And
Today
I
we're
love
on
to
the Love
teach. And
Your
I thought,
Life
well, what
show.
else can
So
I
let me
do when
get
I
into the
can't
goods and
physically see
share the 8 small
patients?
things
And
you can do
I
that
realized
will have
I
a
can
huge
teach and
impact on your
educate
health,
through other
longevity,
platforms like
vitality,
podcasting
and your
and putting
confidence
myself
in
on social
yourself. How
media,
you
right?
feel
Which
about
I know
yourself.
gets a lot of hate at times, and I have a love-hate relationship with
Mhm.
it. But that is where a lot of people get information.
Mm.
So I started putting myself out there in August 2022 and have a podcast called The Skin Reel. And I just love it. Have a lot of fun doing it. It doesn't feel like work. And then I'll say the other thing is in 2020, I turned 40
Mm.
and I started noticing things were changing. And a lot of my friends were turning 40, and I'm getting a lot of calls and questions. What's going on? What should I be doing? And I realized there's a lot of confusion out there, a lot of misinformation, and a lot of overwhelm as we start to see changes that aren't always welcome. And so I'm hopefully a voice of reason for people, especially women, during this period.
That's what I love about you. And I will have all the links in the show notes for listeners to go find you have a YouTube channel with lots of great videos and information. And then your Instagram is full of sort of lessening the noise and
Yeah.
keeping it real, which is super helpful
Yeah.
for me. So that is one of the main reasons I wanted you on is sort of help with this feeling of overwhelm, or my own feeling of my skin overwhelmed. Like there are so many messages out there about what to do, and you should do, get a peel, or you shouldn't get a peel, and you should add this hyaluronic acid. I can't even pronounce it to you, or don't,
Yeah.
and do this instead. And I know I'm not alone in my head that it's spinning, and I'm wondering if you could help our listeners by reducing some of that noise and
Oh my
misinformation that
gosh.
we see online.
Well, you're not going crazy if you feel that way. And to be honest, I feel that way. I
Mm,
go into the
that's so good
drugstore
to
or
hear.
a department store, Sephora. My kids love to go to Sephora, and I'm in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how in the world can anyone figure out what to buy and what to get? And then again on like my feeds, and all of a sudden I'm hearing about a new trend. I'm like, wait a minute, am I behind? Is this
Yeah.
really a real thing? And I have to investigate. So my advice is keep it simple and keep
Mm,
it consistent. And I'll
mm,
tell the story that I have been using, and I'm not sponsored or anything like that, but I have been using the Dove Beauty Bar. I call it soap. I don't think they like me to
mm.
use that term. At the Dove White Beauty Bar, the
Right.
bar, nothing
Yes.
fancy,
It
nothing
smell immediately
sexy.
comes to my mind. I love it. Yeah.
And I have been using that ever since I was a dermatology resident, and my attendings taking care of tiny little newborns and babies with really bad eczema would
Mm,
recommend it. And they'd say, this is the, safest, gentlest for baby skin. This is what, they would tell the parents to use. And I
mm.
started using it. I couldn't afford much at the time as a
Right.
resident. And I have stuck with that darn bar
Mm.
soap for decades now. And people
Wow.
try to get me to use different ones and things. And I'm like, you know what? It works. It's
Yeah.
simple. And I don't need to change. So you don't have to change things just because something new comes out. And maybe what you're doing isn't sexy, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be, right? What matters is consistency.
Mm,
So find something that works for you, that works for your price point, that works for the amount of time you want to spend, and stick with it. And
mm,
and don't have that shiny object problem, where you're like, oh, that looks pretty. Oh, that looks pretty. This beautiful celebrity is recommending this. When you start down that rabbit hole, it's really dangerous. So
oh, it's so hard not
find
to
your
do though. I'm like,
core
I feel like you
pieces.
can see inside all of our medicine cabinets. It's like, oh no, it's like all those
Yeah.
half-used trendy things. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And people want me to try stuff. Oh, have you tried this? So I kind of want to try things a little bit just so I can be aware and I can recommend other products to people with skin that's not like mine.
Hmm.
Because again, skincare is personal. Not everyone is going to like what I like, and people have different skin needs.
Hmm.
So I do try things out, but I just always go back to my staples. And I guess it's kind of like the concept of having a capsule wardrobe, right? Where
Mm,
you don't have to have a closet full of 1,000 things that you wear or never wear. It's
hmm.
better to have some core products that work, that that you enjoy using, and just stick with it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I get like what I'm hearing, and I just want to highlight for the listeners just consistency and then choose things that are right for you, which we talk about a lot on this show, like knowing
Yeah.
yourself in terms of time and price. That, don't just decide that
Yeah.
you're going to do something that suddenly takes 52 minutes when you usually spend 3 minutes on your face.
Right.
I
Well,
really,
and you won't keep up with it.
right, no. And then you'll feel
It's
bad, and
hard.
then you have these extra products, and then you're just
Yeah.
like, blah, right. So, in terms of that, because we love simple here at the Love Your Life show, what sort of like where would you have people start, or what do you think is sort of like the simple skincare routine that's the most effective? I think what we're all us busy
Yeah.
women
So
are looking for, like help.
yeah, for sure. Like I don't want simple because I don't care, right? Or
Mm,
I don't care what I look like. I
yeah.
want simple because I will stick with it, and I have
Mhm.
a lot of other things going on, and effective. And a lot of people will say, "Well, how do I know what I really need?" And I'll tell people to pair their skin needs with their skin goals, and that's going to
Mm,
look different for everyone. But for example, for your skin needs, what kind of skin do you have? And I think people intuitively know if they
mm,
have oily skin or they have dry skin, or maybe you have combination skin, or you might realize, oh yeah, I'm super sensitive. Every product I use, like I
mm,
have to be really careful, right? If you have sensitive skin. So and dry skin, those are kind of the main ones. And you can do like little tests where you wash your face and then don't dry it, but don't put anything on it.
mm.
And then check back in an hour and see how your skin feels. Does it feel
Oh,
tight? Is it oily? Is it shiny? Are you getting red splotches on it? Right. So that's kind of a little test to see skin
Oh, I
type
know
you have.
exactly
But
what
I
my
think a
skin would
lot
do.
of
Oh, that's
people,
so fun. Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people know, right? Just from living, you kind of know what your
Yeah.
skin is. And then what are some of the things you struggle with? So if you're perimenopausal, you
Mm,
might be struggling with dryness. Your skin is extra dry. If you're, you might be struggling with acne, right?
mm,
You might have eczema. You might have a discoloration on your skin. So you also have to consider that. And that's where like a dermatologist can be helpful. And then you pair it with your goals. What are your goals? And I'll say my
mm,
mom is like on one extreme. I can't even get her to use a retinol or retinoid. She is truly, truly a minimalist. She wears sunscreen and a hat when she's outside, and she
that's
uses a moisturizer, and that is it. And I will
Oh,
never see her in my office for a procedure. She is
good.
just not about that. And that's fine,
Yeah.
right? Like if that
Yeah.
is you, that's amazing. And
Hmm.
don't feel bad about it. And then there are people who want to try everything. They enjoy skincare
Mm,
and they want to, you know, explore and test out all sorts of stuff, right? And then I think most people are somewhere in the middle, and I know I
hmm.
am as well. And so I will do in-office procedures, but I don't want to be like a slave to them. I don't want to be spending every 6 weeks going in
Mm,
doing something, and I don't have the budget for it. Like I don't
hmm.
want to waste thousands of dollars on stuff. So you sort of have to pair your needs and your goals, and then that's what you know what your habits should be.
Hmm.
But just real simple for every single person out there. I think it's four ingredients I'd recommend: a cleanser, a moisturizer, and sunscreen. And really that can be it. So that's three, not four. That can be it if you are like my mom and a true minimalist.
Mm. Okay. I love it. So that is like very much it's like if you're doing that, and how often would you say that you need to cleanse your face?
So I would say for most people who, work during the day, sleep at night, right? You're not have a night job, right? Then you should wash your face at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And that's because you might be wearing makeup, there's oil, dirt, pollution from the day. So in general, I recommend washing your face. For most people, washing your face at night. In the morning, I have oily skin. I used to wash my face, and now I don't do it. I just splash water. So I
Okay.
think you can kind of play that by ear. If you tend to have oily skin, you probably feel better washing it.
Hmm.
But if you're perimenopausal and you're having dry skin, you can just splash some water on your skin, and
Oh,
that's
that is,
totally
yeah,
fine as
that is
well.
so good to hear. Because that's what I do in the morning. I just like splash water
Yeah.
and then at night cleanse. And I love this. So when you're talking about
Yep.
like pair your skin type with your skin goals, what are some examples of skin goals?
So goals might be I'm not going to ever, I want to age 100% naturally, right?
Mm,
Like my
okay.
mom, she isn't going to do anything. Or like some celebrities think Justine Bateman's like, I'm not doing anything. And
Mm,
then other people like think of like Madonna, right? There's
mm,
some people that extreme who are
don't want
like, I want to
any.
do everything I can to not age. And
Hmm.
I don't necessarily think that's a great goal because it's a little unrealistic.
Hmm.
And I think most people, will fall into, well, maybe I'll do lasers, but I don't want to do injectables, or I'll
Mm,
do, I want my skin complexion to be even, but I'm okay with having wrinkles, or I'll do these procedures, but I don't want surgery, right? So
okay.
those are like kind of examples, and you're allowed to change your mind, right? You're
Hmm.
allowed to say one thing at 25. And then at 55, be like, you know what? I actually do want to do a laser treatment.
Yeah.
So you can change your mind, but that's sort of what I mean by goal is how do you want to age and what's your aesthetic goal, if you
Yeah,
will.
I like that. I just, yeah. And also maybe also like how much time do you want to spend? Like if your goal is to not make it take up a lot of your time or whatever.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
that.
It might be like I want to do the least possible, but still look and feel great, you
Okay.
know?
So if, because I think one of my goals is that, like least possible, but looking still
Yeah.
looking good. And then you mentioned lasers. Can you just share some of the procedures that we might be looking at if you're like I'm 53, most of my listeners are, a lot of my listeners are 40 and above, but like what might be some not like I like what you're saying. Like you don't want to break the bank. I do not want to be the kind of like go in there and have something done and be like, and now you have to come back in 6 weeks. I'm like, ooh. So what are some of the
Yeah.
things, sort of beginner places you could start if you were looking for some procedures an office like yours.
Yeah. Well, so before even jumping to that, I will say, I gave you the bare minimum skincare regimen, but I don't do that. So I add a few extras. So a few
Mhm.
extras you might want to do starting, ideally starting even before your 40s, would be incorporating a retinol or retinoid into
Okay.
your night routine.
Mhm.
And so I've been doing that pretty consistently since my late 20s. I stopped while
Oh,
I
you're
had
so
kids.
lucky. I started when I was
And
like
then
48. That's awesome. Yeah.
well, it's better late than never, right?
Yeah.
And then vitamin C is another great one for people,
Mm.
especially if you struggle with some pigment, melasma, discoloration, and you can do that in the morning. And neither of those have to break the bank. You do not need to
Mhm.
buy $200 serums. I get mine at the drugstore, and my
Mhm.
prescription, is compounded for about $60, and that goes a long way. So those are sort of if you want a few extras, but you still don't want to go crazy. That's my skincare regimen, right?
Mm.
And in fact, I don't even do the vitamin C routinely because I don't struggle with hyperpigmentation.
Mm.
So,
Okay, you
so
make
I
me
do
so
have an
happy. That's
extra.
literally what I do. I must have read that somewhere. Maybe
Yeah.
it was on one of your reels because I do vitamin C in the morning and then I have my own little weird castor oil, essential oil blend because my skin is dry. And then at night I put on my retinoid.
Yeah.
I've been starting with a little bit of estrogen cream on my face.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I am definitely prescribing that a good bit to my
Ah,
patients. And I actually have some I got to test out and I love it. And
yeah.
I think I am gonna incorporate that in my routine. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna use it at night. I'm gonna wash my face. I'm gonna let it dry. Then I put on my retinoid, then I put on my estrogen cream, and then
Okay.
I follow up with just a little extra moisturizer. It's cold, we're getting into spring where I
Mhm.
am. So as the weather warms, I may not need, the estrogen may act as my moisturizer. So I'm just going to play around with that. But I think of the estrogen cream as a moisturizer. So
Okay.
in the morning when I use it, I put it on after I splash water on my face. I put the
Mm.
estrogen cream on, and then I do my sunscreen last.
Okay, I really
But
like
yes,
the layering because I
it's
wasn't sure if you
great.
put it under the retinoid or on top. And okay, yeah,
You know,
neat.
I don't think there's a right or wrong, honestly. I just feel like any medication should go closest to the
First,
skin.
yeah.
And so that's why I do it first. But there's also a sandwich technique. You could do estrogen, then your retinoid, then your moisturizer. So you can play around with it. Don't worry, you're not going to screw it up. It just, the main thing is just those those
Put it on
three
your face,
things in
right?
your night
Just put
routine,
it on somehow.
right, are
So
are
nice to hear.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
Because that
don't
helps with
forget
the
your neck.
overwhelm too. Right. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
put retinol in your
Yeah,
neck?
don't I do.
You do.
I
Okay.
do.
And how about
And
your chest area?
I put it on the tops of my hands and my chest. I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I will say that area is more sensitive, so your
Mm-hmm.
neck is thinner.
Mm-hmm.
The skin is thinner. And so I will notice I will get a little bit of a rash or some dryness a little faster on my neck. And so I may take a night off and
Mm-hmm.
and not use it. And that's the other thing. As we get older, I used to be able to use that retinoid every single night. In fact, I used a stronger retinoid called
Mm.
tazarotene, and I did not use a moisturizer, and I was fine. And
Mm.
now I don't use it every night.
Mm.
And so don't feel like if you're struggling with dry skin, you're having a hard time. You don't have to do it every night. In fact, I don't do it every night. So
Mm.
I think that's just part of our skin being more dry. But I do think the estrogen is helping with hydration of my skin. So
Yeah.
that is one I think to add as your extra.
That's awesome. And that's another reason why that tube of retinoid lasts for so long because you said $60 at your office and like
Exactly.
I'm not using that much. So that is such great information. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
yeah, and then the neck and the
Yeah.
chest and the hands. Yes. And don't forget the hands,
Yes.
ladies, with
Top of the
our sun cream,
hands.
sunblock. Yes. Yeah.
I wish I had done that earlier
Well, you're
consistently.
younger than me.
Because
I
yeah,
wish
the
I had
hands.
laid out with aluminum foil when I was 20 and baby oil, but
Oh, I know. I know,
like there's that.
seriously. I
Anyhow,
know,
okay. So then
terrible.
if we're doing those things and we're like, hey, I'd like to just experiment a little in office,
Yes,
like
yeah.
what might we try or start with?
Yeah. So anytime I have a consultation with someone, I like to hear what bothers them.
Mm,
And sometimes they will come in requesting something, but really what bothers them is something different. But one of my favorite things to do before doing anything else is to even out someone's complexion. I
mm,
think that makes such a difference. It makes everything look better
mm,
when your skin is uniform and even and youthful looking. And so a lot of times the first thing I'll recommend if you have sun damage or you have some discoloration is to work on evening that
mm,
out. And that can be with a chemical peel, that could be with a resurfacing laser. There are different things, if it's more redness, like more rosacea, that could be with a laser for redness. But
mm.
I just find everything, I could fix, some hollowing or give you some Botox, but if your skin still has a lot of discoloration on it, it just never looks as good. So
Mm.
that's one of my favorite things to do. It also helps prevent skin cancer, which
Oh, wow.
40 plus is that's when we're starting to see the effects of the tanning, the baby oil and
Yeah.
aluminum foil. Manifest. So you might be getting little rough spots on your skin called actinic keratoses or precancers, and you might even be getting skin cancer. So chemical
Mm.
peels and certain fractionated resurfacing lasers actually reduce the
Oh, I
amount of sun
never
damage
heard
that you
that.
have.
That's so
So
cool. Okay.
yeah. And the other nice thing is these are usually like one-time treatments. Certain lasers you might need, they're lighter, a series of three, but then you're really good to go.
Mm.
It's not something you need to go do necessarily all the time, especially if you're being good about sun protection. So I
I love
find that
that.
that's a great first foray. But I will say there is a little bit of downtime with that. So the most common thing that people get when they're dipping their toes in is Botox, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah. So I joke that it's a gateway drug because that's usually what most people feel comfortable starting with for a couple reasons. It's super safe. We've been doing it for decades. People do it for medical reasons. I tell the story. My son, when he was an infant, like not even a year, had 100 units injected into his neck because he had something called torticollis and he couldn't turn his neck.
Oh, wow.
And so I would never I would never give that to my child if I didn't believe 100% it was
Right.
safe.
Yeah.
So and I say Botox, but really that's a brand name. There are other ones. But botulinum toxin is what I mean too, or
Hmm.
toxin, and a little bit of Botox into your muscles, especially like your scal lines, sometimes around the eyes, or even down by your mouth.
Hmm.
You'll still be able to look like yourself and have emotion, but it just softens those lines from forming that you don't even
Mm.
realize you're doing. That scowling, or as the corners of your mouth start to turn down. And I think people get scared about Botox because they've seen really bad cosmetic work, or they've
Mm.
seen those people who can't move at all, and they think that that is what they're going to look like. But if it's done well, no one knows.
Mm.
And that's really, I think, the goal of Botox is just very subtle softening of the
Hmm.
lines so that you don't continue to make those etched in lines.
Okay, because that's the reason why I haven't considered it. Is I just don't like the upkeep. Like I don't like thinking like I'm doing
Yeah,
something and I need to do it again. So I think I probably would go more towards like the skin resurfacing or the evening of
yeah.
skin tone. And but you said those have downtime, like the chemical peel and the lasers. What do you mean by that?
They they do. And I'll just say, like, for Botox, you could do it twice a year, right? It
Mm,
doesn't
okay.
have to be,
Uh,
I certainly see my hairdresser more often
right.
with that, but you don't have to go every 3 months. What I like about Botox is the results slowly come on and then they slowly
Slowly
wear
go
off.
off. That's
So
nice.
yeah,
Which is
so
better
it's
than the
not
hair.
like you wake up one day.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So I would say don't be afraid. It's not as much upkeep. You could honestly do it once a year, but I think for the best results, 2 to 3 times a year
Hmm.
is really ideal. The downtime with chemical peels typically are about, well, it depends what you get, right? But if you're really doing it to remove a lot of sun damage, it's about a week of downtime for
Mm.
both the peel and the laser. And it just depends how comfortable you are with people knowing you've had something done on your face. So
Mm,
I'll say my staff, they all come to work when they're
yeah.
peeling, and people are, they definitely get some looks. And then they're like, oh, I'm just, getting a peel. Come back and see me in 2 weeks, and I'll look great.
Right.
But I can imagine if you're a public speaker or you don't want
Right.
anyone to
You
know,
need to know
then
that
you should
before,
give
right?
yourself, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
But
Give
it's
yourself about
not
a
that
week.
it's not the downtime like you can still go do things. You probably have to be extra vigilant about keeping your face out of the sun or whatever, but
100%.
it's
Yeah.
more
So that
personal preference.
fresh, yeah, that fresh baby skin, you do not, you think of it like a baby's
Yeah.
skin. You wouldn't put that out directly in the sun, right? So when you're healing, when you're peeling, it's important not to be in direct sunlight. So if you do have to be out, wear a hat, wear sunglasses. And I'll tell a lot of my patients to just wear a mask, right? We're so used
Mm,
to those nowadays, and
yeah.
that covers half your face.
That's so nice. Yeah, that's great. So one more thing I've heard thrown around amongst my friends is skin needling. What's
Yes,
that?
microneedling. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so microneedling is at least
I'm like, tell
here
us
in the
all,
US we
Dr.
call it
Mina, help
microneedling.
us.
So microneedling I love. It's basically, think of like a jumbo crayon your children might have, and but on the end of it are several needles, and they oscillate back and forth very quickly. And the concept is that these tiny needles make these little punctures in the skin that don't leave a scar, but they stimulate wound healing. The body responds to it like, oh, this is a wound. Recruit the growth factors, recruit healing and collagen building.
Mm,
And so you can do it really everywhere. The nice thing about microneedling, all skin types can get it done. I love it for scars. It's great, especially if you don't have a lot of sun damage and you
mm,
really are just looking for a refresh. It's a nice treatment. You could think of it like a facial, like you might get a facial,
mm,
just for like skin brightening,
mm.
and much less downtime. I don't want to say none. It's about 24 hours where you're
Mhm.
kind of red, and you shouldn't wear makeup or anything. And then after that time, you're good. Those little channels have closed up, and
Okay.
you can do makeup, you can do your normal skin stuff. But that's a great option too. Um, less downtime. You do put topical numbing on. It feels, most people don't mind the sensation that
Hmm.
much. Um, and yeah, it's a great option as well.
Okay. And so maybe after evening the skin tone or like that could be sort of
Yeah.
the refresh or whatever. This is so
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
Or or I like skin. I think of skin pin, or skin pin's the one we have. I think of microneedling as a great option for 20s, 30s, and probably 40s if
Mm,
they don't have a lot of sun damage. And then if you are a little bit older, maybe have a little more volume loss, a little more creping, discoloration, then I go to my lasers for those. I think you'll just get better results, but um, you know, there's certainly no rule against being 55 or 60 and wanting
right.
microneedling either.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's so helpful. You've been such a wealth of information. And I just, one more thing, I guess, for listeners you really speak a lot about the link between skin health and self-confidence. And I really appreciate that. And I just want listeners to follow your channels and your Instagram and all that because it is helpful. What do you see as the connection between skin health and self-confidence or in your clients or?
Well, gosh, I think feeling good about looking in the mirror and feeling good about yourself is so important. But I think we limit it to just the external appearance, right? Or what we consider youth, or we imagine ourselves 10, 20 years ago, and we look in the mirror and
Mm,
we don't see that. And so it discourages us, and
mm.
we see changes that frustrate us. So I see it, right? Like I'm not immune to it either.
Yeah.
And so when we feel good about how we look, we present ourselves differently.
Hmm.
When I had acne as a child, I remember like wanting to, melt into the wall. I didn't want anyone to look at me. I just felt I didn't want to speak to anyone or look anyone in the eye. And they've actually shown studies that when people have acne, moderate or severe acne, they're considered less intelligent. You're
Mm,
less likely to want to
wow.
hang out with them or be friends with them. So these are real, right? And people who have skin conditions like psoriasis or eczema, people think they're contagious. They don't want to touch
Mm,
them. They don't want to be near them. So skin, how we look is important, whether,
mm,
no matter what you think, like how we present ourselves, first impressions, and all of that. And as women, I think we're being held to these impossible standards
mm,
as we get older that we're no longer attractive once we've passed reproductive ages, and we've been kind of forgotten about for a lot of years.
mm.
Or decades, centuries, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited that there is this whole like perimenopausal menopause movement where we realize women 40 plus, or in menopause and perimenopause are not just, you know, put out to pasture,
Mm,
unattractive, unworthy. And so I love that we're kind of rewriting this narrative that we
mm,
can still be vibrant, attractive beings. Yes, it's going to look a little different from
mm-hmm.
20, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I always will tell people I'll talk. I just gave this talk, like, think about a picture you took 10 years ago that you hated, right? Like I have a picture from my old like practice website, and I look at it at the time and I thought, oh, I looked terrible. I didn't think my body looked good, and I hated it. And
Yeah.
then I saw that picture about recently, and I'm like, why did I hate that picture? I
Yeah.
looked
Isn't it so funny?
great. I mean,
Yeah.
I looked amazing. I'm like, I don't look like that
Why
anymore,
was
and
I
I
not
want to look like
loving
that.
my, right? Yeah.
Right. So I think we should don't wait until you're 10 years from
Mm-hmm.
now to appreciate where you are, no matter
Mm,
what. And yes, like we want to be able to feel good about ourselves, and we want that reflected in how we look. But I think so much of it is also how we take care of our bodies.
mm-hmm.
And we sometimes think our skin health, when we say skin health, people think just what our face looks like. And they
Mm,
forget that we have skin all over our bodies, and that the skin does a lot of other things as well. And we need more of a focus on how to take care of our bodies, what we're eating. Like in your
mm-hmm.
episode on perimenopause, right? You talked
Mm,
about alcohol,
mm-hmm.
sleep, stress management. Maybe it's getting on hormone replacement therapy so
Mm,
that you don't feel like you're out of control.
mm.
So all of these things impact how we feel about ourselves and how we look. So
Yeah.
I think I'll say skincare is whole body care. We can't just focus on the topical things we put on our skin or the in-office procedures. We also have to really think first and foremost about how we're taking care of our bodies, our mindset, our
Mm,
mind, how we
mm-hmm.
talk to ourselves, what we say to ourselves when we look in the mirror.
Mm.
Is so so powerful, more powerful than any procedure I can do for you in the office.
Yeah, well, and my listeners know we work with the thought model, and just like we're going to feel better about ourselves if we're thinking thoughts that are better. And a lot of what your approach offers is, I think a lot of the thoughts that we think around is like we're doing it wrong, or we don't know enough, or that's too complicated, or it's sort of like shaming. And again, that's like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or and yes, for sure we get into the comparing of our old self or what other people look like.
Yeah.
And I always say compare and despair. But if we have these thoughts that we're like,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm doing pretty well. Like I am washing my face. That's what Dr. Mina, like I'm washing my face once a day and I put the moisturizer on. And that in itself, just the thoughts that we are taking good care of ourselves, and sort of that simplicity in starting somewhere can help so much, and then get the momentum rolling. So then maybe we can add in you know, a retinoid or whatever. I really appreciate that. Just
Hmm.
the feel, just your whole message allows for more confidence too, where it's like, oh, maybe I'm not doing everything wrong, and maybe I am not missing everything, and am not the last little, turn up on the bus to do it. Like, no, you're doing just
Yes.
fine, listener.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember, right? All the stuff we see out there in the ads and all that, the goal is to get you to buy stuff and to make you feel bad about yourself.
Yes,
So
yes.
you have, it's hard to see that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're scrolling, you're like, I know that doesn't work. You can't help but think like, oh man, but they look really good in that post. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, it's
I mean, that's
probably a
capitalism,
filter.
that like there's a problem and there's a product that will fix your problem. And so what you're offering us is
Right,
that there isn't a problem. You're fine. Like minimalize,
right.
get it down, get it to simple, get consistent, keep doing the thing. sunblock. This is one of the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, if you did just one thing, if you just protected your skin from the sun, especially,
Mm,
really everyone, but especially people like, lighter skin, that will get you so far. I can't tell you the patients I see in their 80s and 90s who have aged the best.
hmm.
And it's not because they're doing all these cosmetic stuff. They have just either sun protected, or they'll say, oh, I burn so easily that I just
Yeah.
never tanned. I never went to the
Yeah.
tanning beds and stuff like that. But I think people underestimate how powerful the sun is at aging our skin. And I'm not saying don't enjoy your life, right?
Hmm. Right.
But there are ways to do it to be smart. So if
Protect
you
it.
enjoy playing tennis or running or sailing or whatever, I love rash guards. They're
Oh,
breathable.
yeah.
They keep you actually cooler, and they
Hmm.
protect your skin. And a hat, right? That goes so far. So I just want to really emphasize that that if you take nothing away, that the power of sun protection will be huge in your later years.
I
You'll
love
see
it.
the
And I also love,
benefits.
I've been seeing like the wide brimmed hats coming back into style, like and I'm like,
Yeah.
style or not, let's just wear them. But the protection all
Right.
around. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, yeah. And it
So
doesn't have to be crazy. I mean, I know people they take it to these like crazy levels. I've seen people riding in their cars where they're basically wearing like a full
right.
helmet and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like it doesn't have to be that extreme.
Right.
But little choices like I'm gonna sit at the table outside that's not in the direct sun, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna sit under the shade. I'm going to take my walk, at 5 o'clock instead of
Hmm.
2 o'clock.
Hmm.
Little
And
things
just the
like that. And when
consistency
you
of
do
getting used
them,
to putting sunblock on.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All
Yeah.
over.
And I think Australia, I don't think I know Australia is way ahead of us in the US
They're
with
amazing.
sun protection and emphasizing that. And we've got, yeah, we should look to you guys for a
It's
little
actually
more
super
guidance
cool.
on
Like
that.
because all their public schools have uniforms, and part of their uniform is a one of those like bucket hats. So all the kids, like you're not
I
allowed
love
outside
it.
without a bucket hat, and they have a slogan. It's like slip, slap, smack, or I don't know some. But one of them is like a part of it is like putting the sunblock on, and really like most
Yeah.
restaurants and cafes, they will have a pump there of sunblock that you can put on like for free, and
Yeah.
it is super cool. Um, and yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So listeners, that's a
I love
takeaway.
that.
Protect ourselves.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You've given us so much information, and I'm like, oh, excited, and I'm not overwhelmed. I'm feeling energized
Yeah.
and confident hey, you know what? I'm doing pretty well. So thank you very
You're
much.
you're doing everything right, Susie.
There you go. All of us. We're like, we got it. Let's do it. Thank you,
That's
Dr.
right.
Mina.
Yeah, and I'll just share with your listeners if they are wondering about their habits that I kind of touched on. I do have a PDF they can grab at theskinreal.com/habits, and you can pick that up. And I break down the goals and needs a little bit more.
Perfect. I will put that in the show notes below, people. So if you're on Apple, just scroll down. It'll be in purple. You can click right on it. Thank you so much. It was so helpful.
Thanks, Susie.